Hey, Courtney, who's today's episode supported by?
Colossal.
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 Colossal. Anyway, this episode is supported by Colossal, a brand new way to discover beats online. Colossal isn't live yet, but we've had an early preview and we're excited to tell you about it. Colossal lets artists gain exclusive access to beats from top industry producers. These are beats that are usually only reserved for major artists, and they're partnering with new producers every day. The Colossal app is the fastest way for artists to find beats that they love and make their best music. The app has a killer feature called Vibes, which is a totally new take on beat discovery. Just describe the kind of beats you're looking for, and Vibes gives you a personalized feed to scroll through, just like TikTok. We all know browsing on YouTube for beats can be a pain. Colossal also has simple licensing options, giving independent artists full ownership of songs they make with no complicated terms or restrictions. We'll tell you more about Colossal soon, but if you're a producer and interested in getting involved, check the link in the video description to get in touch with the Colossal team. Now, on to your episode. Whenever you just start recording.
Damn, Bob be outside.
I'm about to just bring Bob. Yeah, I'm just about to bring him in. We good? Okay, cool. But how do you know Omar?
Yeah.
We met through a talented singer-songwriter named Goldie.
Okay.
And she's like written big songs for Chris Brown and some other people, and we just hit it off as bros, and we just became friends. And I've had a few like younger guys that would come to my studio and just hang out while I mix. And they kind of learn, and we're hanging, and we just become friends that way. And Omar was one of those cats.
I think he spoke about you actually on his episode.
I think he did.
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken, yeah.
We've also tried to do some co-mixing stuff together, like
Gotcha.
Big Sean and some other guys, like where he'll start it at his house and then bring it to me, and then I'll work on it, and then he'll take it home and finish up. You know, so.
And the whole nine. Well, obviously, I'm sorry, and this is one of my people that I've just always wanted to talk to. Someone that's been supporting us for a while, someone that's in the comment section, really just giving gems, also just dropping his opinion on things and stuff like that. And it's someone I've just known of for years. I've seen his Pensado play 6 years ago. Somebody I've just followed journey-wise for a very long time, a very familiar name, very credible guy.
Very credible, and he's just an incredible mix engineer. Credits
Thank
all the
you,
way
guys.
Credits ranging back to nostalgia to today, and that's something that longevity is something to really, really be proud of.
For sure.
Welcome to the My Audio Nerds podcast, and this is the podcast for audio nerds like yourself. We have on the couch with us
a very special guest. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Bob Horn. Clap it up Bob Horn one time, man.
Thank you, guys.
Grammy winner, Neo, Usher, so many people, BTS.
Jimmy Asco.
So, the Lupe stuff. So,
Lupe, yeah.
Yeah, he said, Lupe. So, one question we always ask everyone when they come here, Bob, is what was your DAW journey? So, what was the first DAW you were in, and then where did you land, or where you are today?
So, started Pro Tools, never left.
He said, I never left.
I'm not gonna lie. Is that our record for the shortest?
That was. I'm not gonna lie. He said Pro Tools. Never ran, never will.
So I was at Berkeley in the late 90s. So that was at 94 to 98.
Right.
And Pro Tools 3 was there. And that we're talking 8 tracks.
Right.
Just if you would laugh at it if you saw it. It was so basic.
Right.
No third-party plugins, only DigiDesign plugins.
Right. DigiDesign.
And we used it for our audio to video sync stuff.
Right.
Placing sound effects, like Indiana Jones clips and stuff. I remember doing that.
Right.
But then we were working on tape and everything. And then I graduate. I go to Nashville, and it's Sony 3348. 1-inch Mitsubishi Atari Radar, and there's 2 Pro Tools rigs in the city,
right?
And they're auto-tune guys. You hire them to come in, sit in the lounge. You give them AS and SMPTE,
right?
And you give them the vocal, and they tune it all day, and they give it back to you, and you mix it in.
Wow!
And that was Pro Tools in Nashville in the late '90s,
right?
I get out to LA 2001, and it's all Pro Tools,
right?
Wow. It's
everyone.
So it's okay, I guess this is where we're going,
right?
So I learned it in Berkeley. Now it's okay, this is where we're going. I got to get myself Pro Tools. I got to learn it, learn all the quick keys.
Right.
And man, 20 something years later,
here we are, man. It's the stage.
I messed with Logic a little bit.
Right.
I messed with Acid Pro, just making little beats and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's just once you know something like the back of your hand, it's like breathing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've been producing Pro Tools, and I know MIDI is faster in Logic.
Sure.
Of course, there's advantages to Ableton and stuff.
We know.
But it's like, man, I can hear it and I can do it. So just keep it.
Right.
Yeah,
And I'm a Pro Tools producer guy too. Like I've just been using it for so long and I haven't left. And funny, you mentioned like SMPTE, and it's giving me nightmares because I'm thinking about like that time code and like kind of syncing like audio with the analog stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, you went to Berkeley and you studied for electric bass and for engineering, right?
Yeah, I kind of did unofficial double major. I just tested out on a bunch of engineering stuff,
Right.
so
Right.
I could like fill it in with bass courses.
Right. How would you say because I went to school for engineering as well. We are Full Sail guys. And how would you say like that foundation like helped you as far as everything? Like as far as the foundation and then actually applying that stuff and getting into the real world. Like what was that like for you?
As far as just being a musician? Or?
Yeah, like as far as the education that you got from Berkeley on the
from
engineering
Berkeley.
side, like was that foundation really like a tight foundation for you?
Yeah. So the great thing about Berkeley is practice time.
Right.
And having practice time where there's 3,000 musicians in the building.
Right.
So it's like you want to practice drums, go out in the hallway and yell for a drummer. You just tell him to do his daily rehearsing while you throw up mics.
Right.
And you're getting to record drums. So like before I graduated, I had recorded drums a few hundred times, bands, probably 80, 90 times.
Right.
So it's like the thing about Berkeley was that we had practice time every day with musicians.
Right.
Wow. Yeah.
So I know a lot of other schools, they would have to search hard to find someone to record, get a band together.
Right.
It's a little more difficult. So I think that's the great thing about the Berkeley engineering program. I know it's changed a lot. It's a whole different world since when I went there. But I think trial and error, it's like you're studying, you go into your practice time, and you pulled 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. those 2 hours.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know what? I'm gonna throw up 6 mics on this vocalist and pan them all like this and see what happens.
See what happens. Just trying stuff.
Trying to delay on these two. And It's like
Right.
you're just screwing around, and then when you graduate, you don't have to screw around or just fool around anymore. You've already done all that. You got out of your system.
Right.
You're ready to go.
Right. Absolutely. So that practice time was very key. Like you feel like that practice time is key.
And I got a job in the studio office.
Oh,
so
nice.
I had keys.
Yes.
Nice.
So you could have been
so you could just go and just do your thing and stuff like that. Gotcha.
I had like 12-hour sessions during Thanksgiving when everyone went home.
Wow, just rock out.
I'd be using like the Eventide from Studio C while mixing an A. Just doing stupid stuff.
Right. But you know how everything sounds. You learning how the tones and stuff like that.
I think the education was all about taking advantage of experimentation.
Right. And stuff like that. You had a question you said?
I'm happy you spoke about that because I know a bunch of people that go to school for music, and I feel like sometimes it feels like from an outsider looking in that the access to all those tools, like just free studio time 24/7, I feel like gets taken for granted. But yeah, I'm really happy you said that. I wanted to shift a little bit. When I look at your catalog, I see a lot of dope records, a lot of versatility, but one thing that really stands out, I see Cimarelli, I see Pentatonics, I see BTS. Those are all groups with multiple voices, and I track more than I mix, so I have trouble when it comes to even blending to a feature with my voice. So I wonder, how do you manage with multiple different tones and voices on the same track?
I typically find my favorite. So I take BTS. You got 7 guys, and 5 are singers, 2 are rappers for the most part. So I can find like my favorite guy that matched the mic the most, and he's the best singer. Sure. And I'll use him as the benchmark. So I'll go ahead and engineer him. It's like I'll get that $1 million sound. I'll try to go for get the the whole channel strip. Right. And then I'll copy all that to the next guy, but bypass it all and one by one adjust it to fit him. Right. And then it's just about going back and forth. So you got a little 4-bar of this guy, then the next 4 is this guy, and it just keeps going with the 7 different guys. Right. So I'm just hitting play for little like 2-second bursts. So it's like this guy. Okay, that's too bright compared to this guy. Right. That needs more de-essing compared to this guy. Right. And I just go back and forth until they're all even.
Got you. Understood.
Do you ever find yourself switching out mics, or do you try to keep the same setup?
Well, I mean, I'm mostly mix. I would want them to switch out mics, but it seems like most people don't. They'll take one mic and force
just
it on everybody.
all on everybody, right? For the most part.
understand.
Speaking of just your techniques and your strategies, there's one strategy that I actually, because I've pried the internet of your stuff for years. There's one thing in particular you said. I'm not sure if you're still doing it, but you still have the Neves Orbit Summer?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I remember you were talking about something, and it sparked something in my brain because I always felt bad about doing it, where I guess the stems that you have that are going to your orbit, you're putting the MB EQ on all of them with that sauce button, if I'm not mistaken?
Without it.
Without it.
It sounds different without it.
Got you. Yeah. So when you're putting it on all of the stems, the MB EQ, what are you noticing about what it's doing to the sound?
It's shifting the mids.
Okay.
And it's a more pleasant thing. And I have a hunch that it's related to my Apogee Symphony because the thing I don't like about the Symphony is the thing that plugin corrects.
Interesting.
So it could just be me,
right?
Except for the fact that I am analog summing, so the sound is getting recorded,
right?
So it's making a difference as long as until I'm doing it in the box mix,
right?
Then it's not making a difference.
Okay, understood.
But I have 4 subgroups. I have everything drums, everything bass, the rest of the music, and then everything vocals.
Right.
Yeah.
So those 4, I started out when you heard that. Yeah, I had MB on all 4.
Right.
Now they're all there, but they're inactive, and I'll turn them on as I feel it.
Right.
So sometimes there'll be 3 of them on, sometimes 2 of them, sometimes none of them.
Right.
So it just depends how I want the mid range to feel.
Right, and that's it. And so I'm an Apogee owner as well, a Symphony.
So the original Symphony or the special edition?
Special edition.
So you love it?
I like it a lot.
So I hate the original.
Which is the one before,
not special edition.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm about to try the special edition.
Yeah.
And see if I save my Apogee box.
Right.
Or go to the Aurora N.
Gotcha.
Because I'm a Lynx Hilo fan.
Okay, I figured. Okay.
And I would love to have 32 channels of Hilo.
Sure.
But I already have 32 channels of the Apogee. I just don't like the sound.
Right.
And I came from when everyone had the Avid HDIOs,
yes,
the purple gray ones.
Yeah.
I was an Apogee guy, so I had the ADX 16 and the DAX.
Got you.
Those sounded great.
Right.
Symphony comes out. I'm thinking
next level.
It's newer. It's going to be just as good or better.
Right.
And it was worse.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. I've heard, you know what's funny? That's why I didn't go for that one, because when I spoke to them, I asked them, like, you know, what their philosophy was in the special edition. They were like, oh, this is our mastering grade converters. And they were talking about how these parts and these materials were sourced within the last 2 years. So I was like, okay, this is a brand spanking new, like, state-of-the-art interface. I'm going to try it out. The first thing I noticed as soon as I turned it in, and what blew my mind, was how hi-fi everything sounded. I was hoping you had the special edition because I've really been looking for someone to give me their opinion on it and stuff. What was you noticing in the Symphony now that you're not liking, that you have to use the MB?
The mids are just they're like janky. I don't know. Like they're and the low end isn't as rich as like the Hilo.
Sure. Yeah.
So I don't track a lot, but I occasionally, if I produce, I track. And we were doing a vocal like 3-4 months ago. And I go into, patch bay number 1, like you usually do, and that's Apogee.
Right.
And I'm like, what the hell? Let me see what the Hilo sounds like. Put it in the Hilo, and the Apogee sounded like, not to badmouth them, badmouth them, because I know the special edition is great.
Sure.
That's what I hear.
Right.
So I'm about to have Vintage King. They're gonna bring me the special edition, the Aurora N, and then a couple other things.
And try
I'm
them
just
out.
gonna figure out what I'm gonna change to.
Now you got to let the internet know, man. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I would love to know, like, what you land on. And
So that's how I do the same thing. I'm an AB guy, so like when I hear something, it's like, okay, what does that sound like next to this? So that's how I got the Orbit.
Gotcha.
I had like 6 summing mixers in my studio, trying them all.
Right.
I was like, Orbit.
Wow. So my question to you is, so I own the Dangerous 2 Bus Plus.
Okay, it's a good one.
Good one. Okay, what other summers did you have in your like arsenal? Like, try it out.
So I had that one. The only reason I didn't go with that one is because of recall. All the Transformer selections, I'm gonna forget.
Sure.
I'm gonna forget.
Sure.
So I'm never gonna use them.
Yeah.
Same thing with the Orbit. I do not use the Silk. I started out using the Silk.
Yeah.
And I would put Post-it notes.
Wow.
Turn on the Silk, and sure enough, I'd be printing a mix like it doesn't sound the same today.
Right.
And I'd be halfway through printing. I'd look over.
Silk is not on. Yeah.
Even the silk
So
buttons.
I just don't use it.
Got you.
And it has the fewest buttons on the front, fewest
nothing.
knobs.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's for me. That's,
Right.
That's Bob Horn. Because
Right.
the other Neve that has 2 space has all the pans. Someone's going to touch something. I'm not going to check it.
Right.
And next thing you know, my bass is going to be over here.
Yeah, you're like, well, something's off. And I hate that. Don't you hate that feeling when you're
I don't
like.
want to think.
Right.
I don't think. I have
get
my.
that.
I recall my SSL Fusion. I put a little video in my session folder.
Okay.
And I just watched the video, set the settings. That's the only thing I recall.
Gotcha.
My Veracity is MIDI. So that's.
Oh,
I haven't touched it in
Gotcha.
5 years.
Right.
And then everything else I print. I'll finalize it on individual tracks. And I'll just commit it.
Gotcha.
So I want my recall because I open 3-4 sessions a day.
Right.
I don't want to think about it. That
makes sense.
Right.
Do you ever see yourself going fully in the box?
So I've been back and forth. So when I was mixing Usher, Raymond versus Raymond, I was all console. I had SSL and bunch of outboard gear, and it would take me hour and a half to recall a song.
Yeah.
Wow.
So if someone's like, "Hey, turn the hi hat down a dB," I'm like, "Oh my god."
Right.
So I'm mixing Usher, and the last song was very Babyface-esque. It was like acoustic guitar. The drums were like the hand hitting the guitar. It was really cool. And then a couple vocals. So we're talking 12 tracks.
Okay.
So I'm like, I'm just going to do this one in the box. It's
Sure.
like, why break out? I'll have the vocal chain, but why break out the SSL?
Right, right.
And I loved it. I just loved the way it sat. So
Right.
my next project, I had mixed half a country record.
Yeah.
Second half I did in the box, and I liked it better than the out of the box.
Interesting.
And this was 2010. So then now we're talking 3-4 years of in the box only.
Right.
Wow.
And then everyone started screaming summing mixers. I'm like, I had an SSL. I grew up on SSL.
Right.
I had a Dangerous 2 bus, the regular one.
Right.
And then I'm like, let me try it again.
Yeah.
And then I liked it again. So
Right.
then I did that deep dive, like, okay, which one do I want? Do I want the
Right.
Burl? No. Do I want this one? You know.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I still hear it because if I get something, there's a closeness and a forwardness to being completely in the box, and I find it very helpful on trap records.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And
Okay.
certain hip hop records. It's like if I go through the orbit, it makes it too dimensional.
Gotcha.
It's like, okay, I need that 808 here.
Right.
You know,
Right.
not here. Not,
Depthy.
you know?
Right. Like not far back.
I don't
back.
need it to be
Right.
super pro. I need it to have the feel.
Right.
Yeah.
So now I do that choice. So it's like I'll listen to a rough mix and be like, okay, this is an out of the box record.
Gotcha.
And I'll do that.
Right.
Or like this is an in the box record.
Right.
And I'll do that.
So you notice? Go ahead. Sorry.
Are there any plugins that are really good emulators of anything you used to use that is in the box?
Like just outboard gear?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot. My favorite so far, it just came out this year, is shout out to Mixwave. You guys mess with
Of
their
course.
stuff?
Yep.
Their VLC Hazel rig.
I've seen you bring that up.
I have the real one sitting there, and I
Right.
have the plug-in, and they did a damn good
Fantastic
job.
job. I was gonna bring that up to you because I seen you mentioned like when you said it, you was like Hazel rig and use it for vocals and stuff like that, or what do you use it
Yeah,
for?
I mean, well, I'm my favorite thing of theirs is the VNE, the compressor.
Okay.
And I hope they're working on it, and I hope because Mixwave is batting 100 right now.
yeah, they're going
100%.
crazy. Yeah.
So
yeah.
I don't want them to release the VNE unless it's perfect.
Right.
Because that's my favorite vocal compressor, even over the CL1B. It's
Right
like,
and stuff like that. Wow.
it's just incredible.
Right.
Sheesh.
Yeah, there's a good bit of plugins that Sonomus, the A console and in console,
Oh, okay.
those things are great.
Really good. You like those?
I love little plugins that you just throw on the plugin. There's not much to adjust, but it tonally just shifted a little.
Just a little bit, gives you
Right.
some character.
Just gives it some character and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Actually, seen a video of you bringing up this. I think it was a compressor called like the Eskimo compressor.
Yeah,
I was crying when you. I was like, "What is
Compresscamo.
that?" Yeah, Compresscamo. I looked it up. I was like, "What is this?" Like, it's a little. You said it, when you move it, it's like more, bringing him closer to the fire or something like that.
Yeah.
Dog, I thought that was so funny. Like, I did not know that. Like, that was existed. One thing.
I'll use anything, man. I'm gonna listen to it. I'm
Right.
gonna compare it,
Right.
and I don't care about the GUI. I don't care about the hype. I don't care if it's a model of a vintage whatever.
Right.
If it's good, it's good.
It's good. I get that.
That's why if you watch me mix, you'll see plugins like I never thought of using that on that. That's
Right, for sure. I do that a lot where I'll be like, sometimes I'll land on a plugin and be like, I never thought I would use it for this, but I wind up. One thing I wanted to ask you is going back to that summer. I'm so interested because I don't really get to talk to anyone about summing. What are you noticing with summing, like with analog summing, that is, obviously it's you incorporate it into your mixes. Like, what are you noticing about it, like from versus in the box versus using the analog summer?
So I think the best discovery on that has been when someone tells me to pull up a song that's from the years where I was completely in the box.
Right.
And I'll pull it up and they're like, okay, we're going to re-release the song, or we never released it back then. Now we're going to release it. And I'm like, let me take 20 minutes and run it through my stuff.
Right.
And get it through my new vibe.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's always beats it. And it's always more dimension, more depth.
Right.
I can get it louder. That's another thing, is I can push a little harder into the Neve.
Yes.
And it has that negative 6 dB output.
Right.
So you can come back in at a good
at a
level.
headroom. Yeah.
So I have both of those on the patch bass. So whichever one I need, I'll put that into the Fusion, then
Right.
to the Hilo. But with the summer, there's just more separation front to back. And like I said, there's certain records you don't want that.
Right.
Because they become unglued.
Gotcha.
They need that in the box, everything smashed together thing.
Gotcha.
And it also could be just techniques, like coming from growing up in the SSL world where every mix has to be on an SSL because we didn't have a choice.
Sure.
And then learning, okay, now I got to do some mixes at home, and I can't afford to rent the SSL studio.
Sure.
I'm in my 20s or whatever. Let me take those techniques and fit them into the box.
Right,
Like
right.
my process of learning the Pro Tools, I use the mix window. So many guys work off of the edit window.
Me and you both, and
I'm a mix window
I
guy.
love the mix window.
Why? Because it looks like a mixer.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
I'm gonna be so honest with you. You might be a psychopath to me, bro. I was in the studio last night with one of the dopest engineers. I'd never met him before, but this was our first time working. And I was like, why won't you leave the mix window?
I love the
bro,
mix window, dog.
please?
Because
I was in as a producer, so I'm like,
Yeah.
look at. I love the edit window. That's my
Yeah.
shit.
I love the mix.
Wow.
When I see, because
Goodness.
I see, like, obviously the edit window guys or
Yeah.
girls, they'll like have the, how they bring up the IO and all of the stuff.
Uh-huh.
I don't like it.
You have this much of waveforms.
Yes.
It's like I want the waveforms to be this wide.
big, yeah.
And then because I'm so quick on the keyboard. It's like
Right.
I'll flip to the mix window. I got the whole mix window. Flip to the edit window. I got the whole waveform.
Yeah. Wow.
I don't like all that IO and inserts.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
Unless except on Melodyning. That's the only time. But now that
Right.
they got the ARA, I don't
ARA,
even
so
need that.
Yeah, you just go for it. That's
So,
it.
quick question, just super random, but you did mention that early on when you learned Pro Tools very early, never left, that you learned like all the quick keys and everything. Have they changed over the years, or
Have they changed?
Yeah.
No, they just add more.
Yeah.
shit,
I was like, yeah, they just add more for sure.
I just thought of that. Yeah.
Avid, Digital Design and Avid, Digital Design was the old company. They became Avid. They've always been slow to add stuff.
Wow.
Like,
Sure.
they're always behind everyone else.
Sure.
And I'm okay with that, but I mean, I wish Offline Bounce came a little bit earlier in my career, but
Yeah.
it's like the quick keys, they'll add one if a new feature becomes
Gotcha, yeah.
integrated.
Right.
you
Then they
know?
just kind of like it's like a default
Yeah.
kind of thing. It's like, oh, this is new, so okay, cool, we'll bring this in. I'm so sorry to keep going back to this summing thing. I never get to talk to nobody about summing. Oh, you mentioned hitting the summing amp a little harder.
Yeah.
And this is something for me, I say over the past like year, that I was like, you know what? This is kind of like my philosophy when I think about a board. And obviously, I love the people like the Dr. Dre's and DJ Quicks. And I always look at how people back in the day, or just now, clip things like in the analog side.
Yeah.
And just knowing that I have more headroom. So I started to, and I said, I'm just going to jump out the window. And I started to like really hit my summing amp a lot harder. You mentioned that. And it's with the, and I know what you mean, and that's what made me. I think I have it on the Dangerous 2 Bus as well, like that negative, like maybe 6 dB, like going back out to the output.
Yeah.
When you're hitting the orbit a little harder, you're summing it. What are you noticing about the sound that you're getting when you hit it a little bit harder?
I mean, it's really just the crest factor changes.
Gotcha.
And the way I do it, so I'll get the meat and potatoes of a song. So like the main drums, the main keys, the main bass, the lead vocal.
Right.
That's like the meat and potatoes. I get that going, and I don't look at my 2-bus until then. Once I have that going,
Right.
and I got most of the vibe and the loud, whatever's going to be the loudest stuff in the record.
Right.
Then I start paying attention to my 2-bus, and I'll grab those 4 submix faders.
Right.
And I'll experiment up and down, probably like 4 dB up, back to 0.
Right.
And I'll find like, because each song is different. It depends on the key of the song, the way
Right.
it hits the orbit. If you have a different summing mixer, it could be different frequencies that excite that clipping first.
Right.
So I'll just mess with it and see, like, is this a song I want to push hard and how hard?
Right.
And I'll get that, and then I'll dive into my 2-bus plugins.
Got you, and call it a day. Ironically, when you mentioned about the 2-bus plus and all the transformer and the parallel thing, I'll be honest, I don't use it anymore for that same reason, because I was like, I don't want to have to think about it. Like, I just use it pretty much as like a tone box and just hit it and stuff like that. I don't want to think about it like you said. Yeah.
I mean, they're great features, but
Yeah.
we just do too much work to have to think about that.
Yeah.
If you're just a musician doing your own album, that's great. Like,
Right,
you can,
for sure. Yeah, you just getting tones and just
go
playing with
crazy.
stuff, and that's it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I definitely, bro. I never get to talk about summing with
excited.
anyone. And what is your A to D? Like, what's your interface that you're coming in?
Apogee Symphony, which for my main monitoring, my 1 through 6, so I have final mix, rough mix, reference mix.
Okay.
And then 9 through 24 is outboard gear, just inserts.
Gotcha.
And then digital out to an Octopre Claret Plus.
Okay.
And that feeds my summing mixer, because during the pandemic they lost their chip manufacturer, and they got new chips that sound amazing. Anything that's plus, it's got to be Claret Plus.
Yeah, we have it.
So
yeah,
so they sound great. They were killing the Apogee, so I put that for my summing mixer.
Wow.
For those 8, so drums, bass, music.
Right.
vocals.
Just like
And
wow.
then out of that, through the Fusion, occasionally the Bus Plus compressor. That makes it on basically 5% of records.
Okay.
As my stereo bus compressor. And then to the Hilo back end.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, got you. I always wanted to know your chain, because I know that you're hybrid. Like, I know that you have like a bunch of outboard gear as well as into box, because I kind of follow your journey for the most part. You graduated from Berkeley, and if I'm not mistaken, you headed to You was in Nashville.
I went to Nashville for like 3 years.
For 3 years. Is that where Echo Bar was, your studio?
No,
Where
was
that?
here in North Hollywood.
That was in
right up
North
the street.
Hollywood.
Wow.
So I sold that 2 years ago.
Gotcha.
And the reason for that, I mean, that was a great studio. I had a big tracking room.
Right.
Eric, my partner, and I, we had 2 control rooms, 1 each. Pensado was with us for a year and a half.
Wow. That's
He and
cool.
I shared a room, and then he took over Eric's room for a year. And that was a lot of fun. But basically, I got to the point where, I'm mostly mixing, and a lot of my clients are in Asia, or people are too busy to come hang out at the mix.
Right.
And they want to hear it in their car or their system anyways.
Right.
So I'm in this 3,000 square foot building by myself every day. My assistant goes home mid-afternoon.
Right.
And so I can just hear, like, where's everybody?
Right.
And I'm paying for it.
Right.
So it's like, and then I'm looking at, all these engineers, top engineers, and they're mixing at home.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm like, man, maybe I should just try it.
Yeah.
So we got an offer on the building, sold it, bought a house with the studio in mind.
Right.
And it's been great. I actually like my mixes better.
Nice. Nice.
It's a phenomenal.
You mentioned a lot of your clients being out in Asia, and I wanted to bring this up. I love to ask any longtime engineers that do work with the K-pop groups about this, because the K-pop phenomenon is, I feel like, sonically as a producer, is very reminiscent on a nostalgic thing that we had, and kind of this phase of, whether it was the boy band phase of the Backstreet and NSYNC and all of that, or like early hip hop. And it's funny, you did one of my favorite, like, you did a graph record.
Yo, I peeped that. Yeah. You did a graph record. Yeah,
But,
rapper.
so I wonder
graph.
if you ever go back to some of your older techniques when you get those nostalgic records, or do you kind of mix them with today in mind still?
No, I honestly, I mix with today in mind, and I mix with what I like in mind. Mm-hmm. So, and that's kind of the only thing I go on. Like every Monday or Tuesday, I look at the iTunes top and the Spotify top, just to stay current and hear, like, what are the mixing trends, what is everyone doing, and then I kind of forget about that, and I let the records tell me kind of artsy, but I like records kind of speak to me and tell me how do they want to sound.
Gotcha.
And I do that. I accomplish that. Like once I hear a rough mix, I hear the finish line.
Gotcha.
And I try to get there. And then that's what I give the artist first. And then sometimes they don't want that. Sometimes they do.
Oh,
you
sure.
know, so
Sure.
For sure, absolutely.
yeah. But as far as old techniques, there might be stuff that I have always done the same, like my vocal rides or, ducking breaths after I squash the heck out of a vocal. But,
Okay.
Yeah.
It's I don't think about it. It's just a tool, and someday that tool might get modified. Like you might tell me, hey, there's a better way to do that, and then that's
Right.
my new way.
Right.
It's like
Right.
that's why I love being friends with engineers, and all the way back to like 2011, 2012 Pensado's place. It's like before then, engineers weren't sharing.
Yeah.
It was like, don't look at my rack, don't look at my settings,
Jeez.
right? And then Dave came in, and it's like now we're all sharing.
Shit like
Dave is
And
crazy.
Godfather.
it was such a good idea.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was an
Absolutely.
amazing idea. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him. You know what I
Absolutely.
mean? Yeah, yeah.
Right.
That's why. And also, I kind of pay homage to him a lot because this is where I learned who's the who. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is where I found you. I found you on Pensado's place. I found the Ali's and was like, oh wow, this is the guy or this is the girl that made those records. Something that I definitely wanted to ask you was, it was regarding, as you can see, I have a lot of stuff for you, right? You went from Nashville and then you moved to LA.
Yeah.
Is LA where you met Nephew, the producer?
Shout out, man.
Yeah, so here's the nephew story is crazy. So I was in Nashville. My parents lived in Charlotte, North Carolina. I went there for 6 months to save up money because there was this weird thing in '98 where Nashville died. Nashville
Interesting.
just stopped.
Right.
It's like I had mixed friends going to Arizona to mix records just to pay their rent.
Right. Wow.
So I was moving anyways. I moved to Charlotte, stayed with my parents rent free, saved up my money to go to LA.
Right.
And also my friend that ended up owning the Echo Bar with me, he was moving too. So
Gotcha.
we made the move together. But I went to Charlotte, got a job at the studio called Reflections.
Okay.
And I was kind of one of their unofficial guys because they already had their team, but I was
Right.
trying to get in there.
Sure.
Just because I didn't want to work at Wendy's or anything.
I hear you.
You know?
Crazy.
So I'm messing around over at that studio, and I come out to LA.
Okay.
First Christmas, I fly back home. Nephew books Reflections,
Right.
and the Reflections people are like, we don't trust any of our own guys. It's like, Bob,
Come here.
You're out in Hollywood now. Come do this session.
Right.
So I do the session, and Nephew and I find out we live down the street from each other.
Wow.
So I worked with him for a week, and he loved me. We come back out to LA, and he invites me over to his crib, and he's like, I need a whole studio. Let's go to Guitar Center.
Yeah.
We went to Guitar Center for 12 hours
And just
and,
racked. It
and
just.
spent almost $100,000.
Whoa. Like he went. Oh, he went in.
Oh my god.
I know
That might be in the world records.
We're talking about Pro Tools HD full system,
Right.
with 10 grand of plugins,
Right.
and everything we needed,
Right.
And then he had like, it looked like a mini Guitar Center in his apartment. Like
Wow.
he had 3-tier keyboard stands all around the room,
Right.
And then a rack of keyboards, and then my whole rig and Dynaudios, and it was
crazy.
heaven. So it was
I
just-
bet it was.
It was Christmas with someone else's
Yeah.
stuff.
Setup.
Yeah,
Yeah.
shout
Heck
out
yeah.
to Nephew for keeping that Guitar Center open.
That's a
Yeah.
fact.
Okay.
For the next 3 years.
Yeah. And then I became his guy for like 5-6 years.
Right. And that's where he was mixing a lot of those records and stuff like that.
So I mean, that was an amazing thing. That's why I tell young engineers, get with a producer, because if they're talented and they're working, you just ride their coattails as far as getting gigs.
Right.
I was never a good self-pimper as far as getting gigs.
Yeah.
So it's like I just get all the gigs Nephew gets.
Right.
And just do my job. And we got so tight. It's like he'd be making a beat, and I'd be like, okay, he's about to pull up a timpani track on the motif. And I would label it, get it ready, arm it.
Right.
Sure enough, he'd be like, give me a timpani track.
And you were like, got that already. Like you just got the synergy.
We just knew
clicked.
each other,
Right.
you know.
Right.
And we developed our sound together.
Right.
We did 1,500 rough mixes in 5 years. So the amount of practice I got mixing,
insane. So
Insane.
would you say that's where you got a lot of your teeth from, like during that time? Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Who would you say was like the first? Because you obviously you also play your instrument. You play instruments too. So I know you produce as well. What would you say is that like your first like big record within that like Nephew kind of like crash course? That you was like, just artist-wise that you
Probably
got to work with?
Brandy, Say You Will, the ballad.
Gotcha.
With the loudest drums ever. I was in Fuddruckers and it came on these little Fuddruckers speakers and it's just blowing them out like hilarious.
That is hilarious. So that would probably be like that first like record that
That was my first big credit. Funny enough, I mixed for her in '98, way before that, but it was for her father's gospel record.
Wow, gotcha.
But that was my first big credit with Nephew, and then Akon, and then we discovered Neo, which was cool because we got to watch him go from zero to hero.
Right.
Because he was writing and singing the demos for Mario.
Yes.
And so we're in the studio with him having a great time. And next thing you know, it's like, yeah, we got you a deal too. You're on Def Jam. We got a deal.
Right. It's like, it's not show up. Here's your contract. Go there.
And when I'm working on the Mario stuff, they're like, keep some of Neil's backgrounds in there.
And we all knew that. And we all knew that too. Yeah. Speaking of backgrounds, ironically, I'm glad you said that because you brought up something one time about how you mix your backgrounds. And I feel like when I heard this from you, you kind of like flipped my head to go, I was doing it minimally, but you made me go like, oh no, go hard with it. Where you're, instead of like processing everything on the bus of like, say for instance, a four stacked harmony, you're deciding to go on the individual tracks and process them.
Yeah, my sessions look insane. Like, so here's the thing, like EQ and tonality stuff, not saturation, but EQ and tonality stuff you can do on the bus, and it's exactly the same.
Right.
De-essing, compression, saturation, if you do it on the bus, it's completely different. And tuning. Don't do tuning on a bus. If you do tuning on a bus, one vocal's pushing it sharp while the other one's pushing it flat, and they can't go both ways at the same time.
Right.
And that's the same thing like with a de-esser. Unless you've vocal lined everything where all the S's are exactly together, they're going to hit at different times.
Right.
And the rhythms are different between the vocals. Even if they're tight doubles, sometimes they're still loose enough to where a compressor over here hits first before this one.
Right.
So I've always noticed, like, if I lazy out and I put everything on the bus, it sounds decent.
Right.
But if I go individual, it sounds better.
Sounds a lot better. And you also mentioned that you do a light compression on the bus as well, like as far as it's concerned.
I mean, sometimes that compression on the vocal bus will glue them all together.
Right.
And that's cool. But it's like some guys I see no plugins on the individuals and everything, like 12 plugins on the bus going into another aux. And
right.
It's like, it's like.
You know what you made me realize when you said that? Like, I'll say, for instance, what I do on my individual stacks is I'll do auto-tune, a little EQ, and one compressor. Like, that was like kind of like my rig.
What's your compressor?
I'm so embarrassed to say what compressor it is. I use a 3A from CLA 3A.
CLA 3A?
Yeah, it's nasty. It's nasty work. Because you know why? I'll be honest with you. I try not to think so hard about the individual too much. I just say, okay, I just want to like kind of tame some peaks to kind of level things out.
Yeah, that's good.
That's what I was doing.
For me, it's RVox.
Use RVox?
Oh my god! On the individual.
He's oh my god. So use RVox though.
RVox has a texture.
Yeah, absolutely.
That like Renaissance Axe and our compressor and anything else, they don't have it.
Right. Yes.
Not to mention it has the gate, which is just
the greatest gate. Of
all my gosh! For a background, especially because you know that moment you can hear the breath of our beats, like I can hear all of that happening before. So you're using RVox as the compressor
on the individual.
Interesting.
I would be so honest, man. When you said embarrassed and then you said the 3A, I was like, oh, he would hate it if I said RVox.
Wow, that's great.
Try the 3A on kick drum.
On a kick drum,
yeah,
it's fast, isn't it?
It just has a thing. It has that opto thing.
Yeah,
and then not a lot. We're talking like no more than 2 dB.
Right. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna try it out. I'm gonna try it out. Yeah. You know,
standard clip is my kick drum magic, but
standard
the 3A,
clip is so
especially
fire.
on a live kick, like a drum set.
You like the 3A on a live?
It just has a thing. You know,
on the standard clip. Do you want to say something?
I mean, we on plugins.
Sorry, yeah. You know the vibe. Let me just get this up. On the standard clip, right? You can tell we're nerds, bro. So on the standard clip, like, what's your kick magic for? Like on that clipper?
Honestly, like the factory settings. Grab the what's the slider that goes left and right?
Soft clip saturate.
Yeah. Whatever that side to side one is.
Yeah.
I just turn that up until I like it.
And you like
simplicity.
Nice. Like, and that's it. Got you. What you gonna say?
I mean, we're in plugin mode, so I want to give him the one guy to go of the week.
Yeah, let's go.
I'm gonna give you 3 options. You got to choose to live without one.
Oh God,
forever. And ever. Okay. They might deactivate your lights. No, I'm kidding. Oh man. So we're gonna do EQs. We got the Pro Q3, we have the Metric Halo EQ, and we have the MB EQ from Mixway.
I believe that's the one. I know that's your like one of your favorite.
Well,
EQs.
those three are my three.
Yeah, I know. We know. We know.
I gotta be without one.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna get rid of the Metric Halo because the MB is similar.
Okay. Okay.
Gotcha.
Because my main two are MB and Pro Q.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Metric Halo has some special, like when I need to carve and tighten up the low mids, that's when I go for MB.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and then that compressor that's on the Metric Halo, the compressor that's on the Metric Halo, that's kind of a special thing, especially for toms and kicks.
Gotcha. You know, ironically, when you say that, you were one of the people that I seen using the Metric Halo one, like the EQ, and obviously I've heard like Serban is a big fan of it. You know, Luke, like I've seen a lot of people using it. I've seen even some people have the workflow of that channel strip across like the entire like session. Right. Yeah. Right. Is there a sound that it is naturally invoking? Do you find on the sound? Yeah.
Yeah. It just sounds different than all the other plugins. It's hard to describe. Like it doesn't, like the MBEQ has a character when you just strap it on.
Right.
Metric Halo doesn't have that character, but when you start to dig in on the EQ, it responds differently than like the Pro Q.
Gotcha.
And I've tested myself to make sure it's not a visual thing, because sometimes we mix with our eyes.
Sure.
But it's definitely, the Pro Q has its special features, you know, when we need something dynamic, or we need a tilt, or we need the box shape EQ, you know, it has all that great functionality.
Right.
But the Metric Halo just has a vibe.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's great for subtle, like 0.3, 0.5 stuff too.
Right.
Even on stereo bus, I'll throw, if I just need to shift something tonally, it's like I finish my mix, I don't want to dig in on anything else, but I listen to a reference and it's like, okay, I'm lacking a little bit of mid-range. Right. I could go 700 hertz and go 0.2 on a Metric Halo.
Right.
And it'll just fill it in, and it's like I'm a mastering engineer now. It's
right.
Like
just tweaking like by 0.3.
Bam.
Right.
It sounds great.
Right. Just random. Having a last name like Horn in the music industry is cool as hell.
It's like you're built for it. It was like, so you're like built for this, bro, and everything. And you know, I want to say this too. You do a lot of interviews and stuff like that. Like you talk to people. You really give back a lot too, man. Like I really appreciate that. Like especially, and I've always heard just really great things about you, and just like how you give game and things of that nature with everybody. Like the fact that what's so funny is, and this is, you know, when obviously we were speaking before, you was like, hey, you know, I'm going to show you, send you some stuff as far as what I've done. I was like, Bob, I already know everything. Like, don't worry, man. I was like, you don't know who you coming to, man. Like,
I think my last thing, for me personally, is just the sound of K-pop, because it seems like you've been really killing that world, man. Like
it's fun, man. Like they have their stuff together on a very professional, interactive, with other professional level. Like it's different than America, and even their file organization is just top notch. Their mix notes are the best mix notes ever.
Really? Give me an example. Like what do you mean?
Yeah. So first of all, when you get a session, okay, think about BTS. BTS mixes are 200 plus tracks.
Sure.
Sometimes 300.
Yeah.
It's like you got 7 members with
backgrounds,
all their backgrounds, all their doubles, all their
Beast
harmonies, their gang vocals if there are gang vocals.
Right.
Then the rappers and their doubles, and there's times 7 people.
Right.
And then you got all the percussion, all the and K-pop. Every 8 bars is a new track.
Yes.
Basically,
literally.
yeah.
Here's a set of drums for the first 8 bars. Here's a whole nother set of drums for the bridge.
Right.
So you're mixing like 3 songs in one song.
Yeah.
Right.
So we talked about matching the vocals. You also got to do that with the kick drums from section to section.
The impact of the drums.
Make it all sound cohesive. But when they give you this session, everything's organized in folders. So you got the drums, then percussion.
Oh, gotcha.
And then all the basses. So it's all nicely organized.
Right.
And then organized by lead vocals, ad-lib vocals, double vocals, harmonies, gang vocals.
Yeah.
So when you put everything into your session, you already know it.
It's just,
you know,
like
so I just do my
loaded.
color coding,
Right.
learn the song, and I'm off. And then when you turn in the mix, they give you, just Asia in general, Chinese, Korea, they give you back such great mix notes. And it's like everything's time stamped. It's like, okay, at 123, we need more of a time-based effect. And they'll, you know, there's a little bit of an English translation, but be like, yeah, more delay here, or you put too much delay on this, so pull that down.
Wow.
And then this ad lib, and they'll give you the phonetic Korean,
gotcha.
spelling for it, so
Right,
you can
right.
find it real easy as
Right.
someone that doesn't speak Korean.
Sure.
And it's just great working with them because it's efficient and
It's professional as hell.
the
Like that's
respect.
such
You know, when you come over here to our people, and it's like audio 1, audio 2, audio 3.
3.1
I
dude.
forgot to send you the bass.
or mix no or my favorite mix all the time. Yo man, something just don't feel right.
At all.
He like,
You gotta
What is
fucking-
it?
there's this
you
thing
gotta-
call lows, mids, highs.
Mids,
Where
highs,
you
facts.
got
You got an
Let me
R
know
comp
where.
on every track. You got to
Use your
delay right
words.
on the lead.
Use your words.
I wonder, and this might sound ignorant, but I think we kind of had this conversation last week. Do they use the same plugins as us over there?
Yep.
same stuff.
Or-
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
does Waves just have like a
Like a whole other thing.
translation?
I think I'm not gonna say which engineer, but an engineer he was like, I'm gonna start building plugins there, and I was like, I'm pretty sure
They
it's
use
like
the same
the
thing,
same
right?
thing.
Yeah,
You had a question you said?
I did. Actually, so looking through a lot of the discography of the stuff you've mixed on, especially in the 2010s, a very vast array from on the later half, leading towards the more K-pop stuff, towards in the earlier half, like the Lupe stuff. You've done work with Billy Porter. What would you say? Because in that time, and we always have a conversation about like the 2010s having a very like impactful stint
Yeah.
in music release.
Yeah.
What would you say was the most challenging mix for you at that time?
Usher.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to the Avila brothers. So,
Okay.
Oh my god.
Oh, yeah.
Bobby and Iz. Oh,
Yeah.
So
Shout out to
it was
them.
them two, and then Jimmy Jam, Taylor Lewis. So I
Right,
had 4 of
shout
them.
out.
So I have 4 producers over me.
Yeah.
And we're mixing 5 songs. Took us 16 days. I remember exactly.
Right.
And
Sheesh.
it's just like they almost overproduce that stuff as far as track count. We actually, you got to remember, this is 2010, so what Pro Tools was back then.
Right.
We had 2 Pro Tools rigs running for one song.
Wow.
300 something tracks. It's called Monstar. It's the, I think it's the opening song on Raymond vs. Raymond.
Yeah, I think so.
But it had, first of all, the music track, and then the whole freaking session of just effectsy,
Sounds
special ear candy
stuff.
and then a whole thing of vocals and a lot of vocals.
Right.
And it literally could have been 3 rigs, but what I would do is I would mix on the track, submix it to 2, open the vocal section, mix on the vocal session, submix that to 2, put the vocals back into the music section.
Oh my gosh.
And then left the effects for the end, and then finally I got the session down to like I think 180, and I had it all together with a bunch of submixes.
Right.
So
Right.
vocals that were like 140 tracks became, 24 stereo stems.
Got you. Oh
So-
my gosh. So my question for you in that workflow, right? Like, obviously, and I'm trying to wrap my head around it with having multiple rigs. When you press play on the vocals over here, like, how was you able to like with the music on the other one?
Sync
Like,
it on the other, yeah.
yeah.
So I had an LE rig, so I don't know.
Oh no, I
don't know if
remember.
you guys ever-
I'm old enough. Yes.
You are? Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm new here, so
So Pro Tools LE was just a dumbed down, cheaper version
Of
for,
Pro Tools.
for the amateurs.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a I think that was like the 003 racks and stuff like that.
So
yeah.
that it
yeah.
came out as 24 tracks, and you could upgrade it to get 48, but then you were cut off.
You're done.
48.
48,
is all
you're
you
done. Yep. 48.
And so this was a Digi 002.
Okay.
And I was sending MIDI time code from the big rig to that.
Understood.
And that's where that rig basically held whatever I wasn't focused on at the time.
Okay.
So if I was working on the track on the big rig,
Right.
and the SSL and all that, the vocals would be on the small rig.
Gotcha.
And I just MIDI time code. So when I hit play, the other one jumped in within about 2 seconds.
Right, because I used to in school. It was like Command J. I haven't
Yeah,
hit that in
Command J.
years. Like,
I
yeah,
haven't even looked at it.
yeah. In fact, I'm like, yo, I forgot. Like, I remember, because I remember the only reason I really looked into that or just knew, because sometimes I make a mistake and have it on, and then I press play and I'm like,
Right.
what's wrong?
It's just blinking.
And it's blinking,
Yeah.
like, and I'm like, yo, my Pro Tools frozen. And then I realized Command J. We used to call Command Apple Juice. I'm sorry, I know this is like mad random, but
Command
he just
Apple
brought back
Juice.
so many memories for me, dog. Like, that shit is
Goodness
crazy.
gracious.
Yeah, Usher just the fact that 4 producers all had their opinion.
Yeah.
And they're all pretty close because those 4 guys like the same stuff.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
thankfully.
Right.
But just going back between those guys, it's like working with Terry and then you know, the Vila Brothers would show up, and it's like, okay, let's work on those drums with Izzy.
Right.
And we'll spend like 2 hours, you know, getting the drum vibe and
Right.
going to the car and checking it. Is it the same, you know?
Right,
and,
right.
And that studio that I was at that time wasn't the best acoustics.
Sure, okay.
So that made it challenging too.
Right, understood.
It's like sometimes we get to the car and it's not what we were hearing in the studio.
Right.
So, but yeah, it's like, that was probably the most challenging.
Yeah.
Like kind of like situation that you've been in and stuff like
It
that.
just wasn't a mix it and done the same day.
Yeah.
Right. This was like a process, like
Yeah.
with everything. Gotcha. Well, you know, Bob.
Man, thank you.
Yeah, like thank you
That was
so
amazing.
much. Like for one, I just want to say thank you just for just engaging in what we have going on and stuff like that. Like for a long time too. Like you know, just seeing you in the comment section and just making jokes and just like engaging with us, that really means a lot to our fanship and just us in general, you know what I mean, and stuff like that. You chiming in with stuff and
Yeah.
giving your opinion,
Giving
like
game and
we
stuff
really
like that,
appreciate
yeah.
that a
And
lot.
just for your education amongst us all of these years. Like,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
A lot of people are still closed off, and the amount of information, and not just us as fans, but the people that you hold close. Like we just spoke about Omar before the pod, like stuff like that. I know those personal relationships because then Omar was the first engineer I ever worked with in New York. I said New York and LA.
LA.
Oh, okay.
And for years, he would just be the only person I go to, and I've learned a lot from him. So I could see the lineage of the information just being passed down, and that's super, super important.
Yeah, I love giving back, man. I love shows like you guys have, and the thing is, all this helps. All us, you know, we get insecure as mixers when we're in our own little worlds,
Right.
And before, you know, all this, you know, internet and these kind of podcasts and stuff, it's like, am I doing this right? Is this how you're supposed to print your mix?
Right,
It's like, how loud is Dave Pensado putting his? How loud is Manny
Right.
turning in his mix to mastering? And
Right, yeah.
just having guys that we can bounce ideas off of.
Right.
It's like,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, you use RVox too? Okay, I'm not.
Yeah, I'm not crazy.
You know?
And that's why I appreciate just having the mere conversation because then it's like, see like this, when you discover something in the studio, it's like Eureka, and it's quiet.
Yeah,
it's not a
absolutely.
soul around. You know what I mean? It's just like, well, I keep that to my, you know what I mean? So I think that having a chance to, you know, have someone like of your caliber and just have the conversation, it kind of allows us to pick your brain, and it's a wrap. RVox is going to be on my background. Like it just is what it is because I'm just
And
like,
the
I
3A
never
on the
thought about
kicks.
that. But you inspire something in me, and I know there's a ton of things. Like, for instance, what is it called?
Compresscamo.
Compresscamo. We're gonna see a bunch of downloads from
Here's
that.
the funny thing.
What?
I haven't touched that in probably a year.
Gotcha.
You know,
It
that's
happens.
just the
That
way it
happens.
goes.
Yeah,
Right, that's the way it
absolutely.
goes. Like sometimes I have a little time with a
Mixed
plug-in.
wave, like it's this constant.
Oh man, Mixwave is my new stuff.
Yeah, they own one
that's-
right now.
yeah,
Yeah.
Their guitar amps are phenomenal. Wow. You know,
Yeah.
like I just took a bunch of guitars in the last week from, you know, amateur to pro.
Right. Like
They
overnight.
just sounded like they were plugged right into the interface. And
Right.
These plugins just took them up a notch.
Right.
But
Are you using a mix? They make the Mixhead plugin, that new Mixhead
oh
plugin.
no, that's Make Believe.
That's Make Believe. I always get confused with Mixwave and them for some reason. I always conflate them because the MB. I feel like I get really that MB EQ. By the way, what company is that? It's Mixwave.
That's Make Believe.
That's Make Believe.
yeah.
So the MB EQ that you love is
Yeah,
Make Believe.
yeah.
Got you. You talk about it so highly of it. I was like, I gotta go like check it out.
Well, it's just totally awesome, and I love how it works, and I love that it's different than the Pro Q.
Right.
You know, it's like, well, I like Pro Q, and I'm gonna use it.
Right.
But I don't want it on every single track.
Right.
You know.
Right.
That's the thing. Like once we left the SSL world, where every channel strip is an SSL.
Right.
I really embraced being able to have every track something different.
Gotcha. Right.
You know?
That difference and stuff like
This
that.
is like when we're in the studio, like Manny, Manny used to have a full API board, a small one, 16 channel.
Right.
But to behind him. So it was like he would run certain stuff through the API and certain stuff through the SSL.
Wow.
It's like, dude, of course that's luxury. Like,
Sure.
You know, you
In a
got to be in the
process.
position to do that.
Right.
But just the thought of that, it's like, yeah, I don't want the same thing on every single thing.
Yeah. Right.
You know,
Right.
it'll work. You can get the job done.
Right.
But it's just not inspiring, and there's just a vibe that all these little tools have. you know?
Right. Well, the one thing I'm definitely going to take from you and why I've been so interested in the MB is because your process that you explained with your summing mixer and the stems, I was like, oh, I have a similar workflow with my stems. And I was like, sometimes once in a blue, I'll put like something on one of them, like, let's ease that down a little bit. You know what I mean? On the actual stem. So just to
Yeah.
kind of think about like, oh, I can actually kind of opened my palette up like on sound, like just with the stems going to the summer.
Try it without that sauce knob.
Okay.
The sauce knob is great for its own thing. You know what? You know about that?
No, I don't actually.
So the
What is that
sauce knob is a preamp that he put in there. It's a vintage preamp. I forget which one. It might be a Pi preamp or something from the 70s. But the MBQ has input-output knobs. And if you put on the sauce, it'll automatically gain compensate the output as you push the input.
Oh,
but
gotcha.
it'll drive and have saturation from that preamp.
Wow.
So that's a cool feature that's not even EQ based.
Right.
But you can turn the sauce off and then it has a whole different sound.
of its own, just being on.
No EQ. Just put it on, turn the sauce knob off, and listen to the difference.
Right. Okay.
It's a thing. It's a subtle thing, but it's a thing.
It's a thing. Oh no, I noticed the subtle stuff. Like I'll be like, yo, like especially when you talk about mid
Oh, I
range.
can blow your mind with subtle stuff.
Say less. Well, like what you want to throw off like random? Do you
Some
think?
people think I'm crazy, but the ones that have heard it just freak out. The Pro Tools meters have a sound, and depending on which ones you choose, sound different.
Interesting.
So what meters do you use?
As far as just like my metering in general.
So like there's Pro Tools Classic, there's Linear Extended, there's a VU.
Oh, I think I'm not using a VU for sure. I think I forgot which one I'm using, but you're about to open my mind up to something.
Is it Pro Tools Classic?
I think it's the classic. I think I'm
It's
using
the
classic.
worst one.
From a sound standpoint, that's so
The
interesting.
meters, the code written for the meters must be in like a series to where they affect the audio.
Interesting.
And if you're summing, it gets recorded because obviously you're printing
I'm
back
going
in.
out. Whoa.
So if you're in the box, it's just how you're monitoring. But I always say your best monitoring will help you make the best decisions.
Sure. True.
But for those guys, it's not going to matter that much because they're in the box.
Right.
If you're summing, it matters.
Right.
And Pro Tools Classic sounds horrible.
Interesting
man.
as far as how it's processing kind of for that display and stuff like that.
I guess so.
Something weird.
So the masters have a setting, and then tracks and aux have a setting. It's two different settings. So my ultimate combo that Pensado, me, and this tech from United Studios United Recording, he discovered it, and they told me about it. But it's Linear Extended on the masters and K14 on the tracks.
Okay.
And the look of it takes a minute to get used to.
Sure. Yeah.
But when you A/B that sound,
Right. It's a different.
just go home and do it. Tell
I
me.
am going. I almost picked up my phone and started writing, and I realized it's a video. I can watch it back.
You're on the worst one.
I am. I'm on the worst one. That
Dude,
is
it
crazy.
made me angry.
Yeah, I'm probably going to be super angry. Yeah. I'm probably going to want to go
But
back.
once you
and-
said it, it stays. You don't have
no.
to worry about
Can
it
I be
switching.
honest?
For sure.
back.
Can I
Wow,
I'm one of those guys too that get like I'm very mysterious about things that they say. No, it's no sound difference. Like I don't know, man. Like
There's a
something
sound
sound
difference.
different.
There's
Like,
a sound
And
difference.
then, do you have subgroups like
yeah,
I do?
Yeah.
Do you have masters with those subgroups?
No, I don't have any masters with the subgroups.
It
Just
makes
straight
a
up.
difference
It makes a difference
because it kicks it up the bits.
as far as that processing.
Yeah.
You know, once can I tell you something? I used to do. Oh my gosh, I'm about to invest. This is investigation audio. Dun, dun, dun.
Zaire.
Clip this up. I remember I was saying this out loud. And I noticed this difference in my bussing one time. Like I used to have all my kick and snare stuff going to a bus, right? And so sorry, all my drums were feeding the drum bus, right? Then I had my drum bus feeding. I don't know why I did this, but I made a mistake and made it feed one other bus. And then feed that thing that the bus that goes out to my my
So series.
stem. So I had a series. So there was one extra like routing a bus like as far as that I was like, oh, that was a mistake. I sat there and realized in my template that I was doing that, and I was like, oh my god, took it off, and it was so much better. And I said that shouldn't happen. I was like because it's just audio, it's just buses, right?
Shouldn't. But there's things that happen like that.
Yeah, wonky
if you
stuff.
take a vocal track, you're sending it to 1 and 2 output.
Right.
Inactivate that output and take a send it to 1 and 2.
Right.
It sounds better.
Whole different thing. Just use the send instead.
Yeah.
Whole different
and
sound.
that would be so annoying to do a session like that.
Sure.
But it's just a thing just to know about. It's crazy. It's like to take a whole mix that's in the box
And
just for
sends.
ease and send it to 1 and 2 across the board on sends. Sounds better than the outputs 1 and 2.
That is I'm gonna experiment. Like
It's
I'm
just
gonna try this
little
out.
coding stuff.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
just these little anomalies.
Yeah, and I think that as how can I say, as definitive and absolute as digital, quote unquote, is, I do notice some stuff that's like okay, that's weird. Like that just kind of like the way it interacts and stuff like that. There's a lot of us, I'm telling you, a lot of people are going to go home and experiment, like, hold on. Especially,
you might have just
you might start a revolution with the metering.
Yeah.
You might start a revolution. I'm just like,
Like,
that
Pro Tools
clip.
might have to put out a statement.
I was like, like, yo, you cracked the code. They weren't supposed to know.
You're going to see a bunch of videos like they lied to me all my
And
life.
I'm not gonna
right?
lie. Please don't gaslight me and say it sounds the same. If Pro Tools comes out and says you guys are tripping, it sounds the same.
sounds
I'm
the
like,
same.
yeah, okay. Well, it's gonna. Let me tell you something. Now
We're
that it's
gonna
out
find
there
out,
in the ethos, and this is why I love conversation. We gonna try it.
I'll just be arrogant and say, if you don't hear a difference, your ears aren't there yet.
Yo, Bob, thank you. There's been times. Let me tell you something. There's been times when I've done stuff on the channel and I'll show things and I'm like, oh, you know, there's a difference between this and this and that and that. And people are like, there's no difference. Or they'll say, oh, I don't hear a difference. I'm like, I think it might be you.
Yeah.
I be wanting to tell them that, like, you snitching on yourself. Like, they be like, I don't hear a difference. This is why I always say, like, you know, I just use this. I'm like, bro, I hear a massive difference. And if you don't hear it, like, I think it's just
cool.
you.
It is what it is. What it is.
For sure. But once again, ladies and gentlemen, let's give a round of applause for Bob Horn.
Thank you.
Bob, this has been a real long time in the making for me personally. You know, I've always wanted you on.
Anytime.
Yeah, please. Man. You know, and obviously, you know, if you have anything going on, where do you want people to find you and the whole nine? Let them know, like, where they can find you as far as, you know, Instagram or whatever you got going on and stuff like that.
Yeah, everything in my life is just labeled Bob Horn Mixing. So
Yeah.
Emails,
website,
all that.
Yeah,
stuff.
I found you. Literally, you just type Bob Horn Mix and everything comes up. Yeah, heck
It's
yeah.
made it easy.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you again, Bob, for
course.
just supporting us and just coming on the show and things of that nature, just giving us your time, man, and just your game.
Thank you.
Yeah, heck yeah. So, please make sure you comment, like, and subscribe. And remember, one lucky person in the comment section is going to get that VIP Gold Edition Rosetta EQ or compressor. Also, shout out to engineers and the whole squad over there for letting us use this space and obviously talk to legends and people that we've always wanted to talk to in the whole nine. I'll leave a link in the description for engineers as well. Also, you can become a paid member of the channel. For instance, our members, Ben saw Bob Horn talk about all this crazy stuff, so it's already sold out as far as all those compressors and stuff that they that he talked about. And yeah, once again, Bob, thank you so much.
Man,
really
seriously,
appreciate you.
man.
And yeah, we're out of here. Take
And
us out.
remember, our Vox is really the one. Just try it.
Our box on the background. I'm not gonna open my phone system.